Okay. So making a siyum tonight for all those that don't have the schnapps ready. Siyum on the parak.
We already discussed Yaakov. I made the siyum earlier at around 4:30.
I hear. Okay, good. Okay. So Zok the Mishna. Right, and as we're finishing off with the knas gemaras. Ha'omer pasisi as bita shel ploini. A guy comes to Bezdin and he said, I was mafata Plini's daughter. Right? So the Gemara, the Rashi says, and the Gemara is going to say, why it doesn't say a case of ma'anis. But he comes to Bezdin and he says, me and this girl, hey, we had an affair. So, Mashalim Baishas Pagam al Pi Atzmai, he does pay for Baishas and Pagam. But the aim Mashalim Knas, but he does not pay the Knas. Again, like we've been saying, and it's going to be the next parak also. So he has to pay for Mafata, he has to pay for her embarrassment, and for why she's worth less. Right? Yesterday's daf, she's worth less as a slave if she's not a basula. And he also has to pay the Knas to the father. So why doesn't he have to pay the Knas? Because we have a major rule, which is Maida Knas is potter. When somebody admits to something, he does not have to pay a Knas. Baishas Pagam is not a Knas. Baishas Pagam is the damage that he did to this poor girl. So that he has to pay when he admits. But Knas, you go free from a Knas if you admit. Ha'omer ganavti, and so that's by Mefat. And then we have it by Geneva too. A guy says, Ha'omer ganavti, says I stole. Mashalim is a keren. Alpi atzma. So he pays the keren, which is the amount that he stole. Vein mashalim tashume kefel, but tashume arba b'chamisha. He doesn't pay kefel, and he doesn't, right, because meaning double, and he doesn't have to pay 4 and 5 if he takes a sheep and he shechts it or sells it, so he has to pay 4 times the price. And if he takes a para, he has to pay 5 times the price. Right? So that's another case. Because again, the kefil and the 4 and 5 is not paying back what he stole. That's a knas. So we said, the knas is potter. Him is shayri as Pliny. If my shor killed Pliny, so now when somebody's shor kills Pliny, he's not chayav misa because he didn't kill. It's his animal that killed. So him is shayri. So but he has to pay kaifer. Kaifer is like he has to forget a kapara. So if his shor killed Pliny, I shayri shall Pliny, or it killed somebody's shor, hareza mashalim al pi atzmai, that he does have to pay because that's not a knas. Him is shari avdei shaplini, but if my shor killed somebody's eved, so there's a special when an eved gets damaged, there's a special knas of 30 shekel. So that 30 shekel is a knas. So then ein mashalim al pi atzmai, he does not pay by himself. This is the rule. Call him mashalim yeser al mashihizik. Anybody that pays anything more than his damage, he doesn't pay on it by himself, on his own account. Because again, if he's paying back what he stole or what he damaged, so that's just paying back the damages. Anything more than that is an extra fine. That fine you don't have to pay if you're money. Yeah.
The way they're stating the klal is a very funny way of saying it, because let's say your shor is mazik somebody, shor time was mazik somebody's animal, and you're paying chati nezek. Is that considered a knas? Is that considered a
right? So that's going to be the Gemara. Very good, Akiva. That's the Gemara is going to discuss both of those points.
I'm saying, and in such a scenario, the klal would include that case because you're at least paying mashahizik.
Right. Yes, you're 100%. The Gemara is going to discuss both those points. I think, if I understand what you're saying, the Gemara is going to discuss it both. Okay, so anyway, the point of the Mishnah is the Mishnah goes through 3 different scenarios of somebody being maida b'knas. One is if he what do you call it? Not coerces. What was the name you had, David? What's it called?
Seduce.
Seduce. I don't know why I can't get that. I don't know why I can't get it. Okay, somebody seduces, and then the other one is if he steals, and the third, and then there's his shor either killing somebody else's shor, or hurting somebody else's eved. So all those cases, he only pays back what he damaged. Anything more than that is knas, and therefore he's potter. So Gemara asks, listening to Nasti, why does the Gemara go to Mafate? Why doesn't the Gemara say a case where he was ma'anis her? Right? So the Gemara says, Loimi boy kama. It's a loimi boy. Really, yes, it is talking about if he comes to Bezdin and admits that he ma'anis her. But loimi boy anasti the loika pagamba. That goes without saying that by Ines, when he rapes a woman, he's not being pagamer. Her reputation doesn't get messed up because she was raped. Right? The Mashalim Bashis Bagam, Alpi Atzma, that he's gonna have to pay Bashis Bagam. But if he seduced her, the kapagim law, she herself is going to be pagam, right? Because her reputation is going to be down the tubes because she was coerced. That means that she had an involvement here. So maybe he won't pay by himself, right? So kamash malan, that no, he does have to pay the bashis of bagam. So again, the chiddush of the Gemara, the Mishna saying mefata, is, well, it's not really a chiddush. It's saying it's a loimi boy. If he has to do it, if he has to pay baishas of pagam, meaning it's not if he has to pay baishas of pagam by mefata, and it goes without saying that he's going to have to pay it by. I'm sorry. It goes with. I'm saying the opposite. I'm sorry. It goes without saying that he has to pay baishas and pagam by ma'anis. She didn't do anything wrong. But even where she did something wrong, where she was, what do you call it? Whatever. She was coerced. She was seduced. Where she was seduced. There you go. Where she was seduced, where she did something wrong, still he has to pay her busha.
See, right? But I don't understand. We're not actually believing him. We're believing him that he's chayav money. Like whenever the Gemara says palki, like when
right. But if she gets the money, that means there's some sort of admittance.
Lav dafka, you're admitting your own money.
But you're taking money.
We always split the namanis. So you're not really believed. Whenever we say palki and namanis, you can't just go ahead and be made about anyone that you want and be believed about it. You want to be mechayiv yourself? Go ahead.
Good, but if you take the money, isn't that an admittance of guilt?
Is that, or that's just you being mechayiv yourself money?
I'm saying if somebody doesn't want to have a reputation that they got raped and they go take the money in Bezdin, isn't that a pretty bad? I mean, what would you think if that happened? I would think, okay, it must have happened. Why otherwise she wouldn't take the money? I think we're going to see how the Gemara is going to discuss that later or tomorrow. Stuff I don't remember already. Either way, so the Gemara says, "Masnisin the loiki atana." Our Mishna is not like this Tana, the Tani of Shimon Yehuda, but af paishas of bagam ain't a mishalim al piyatzmai. But not for the reason you're saying, Akiva. Shimon Yehuda disagrees with our Mishnah. He holds you do not. If he comes and admits to Bezdin that he was mefata her, there's no paishas of bagam. Maybe this is what you were saying. I don't know. Maybe it was. It's not. We don't believe him to go. Some guy comes into Bezdin admitting that he messed around with a woman, and we should believe him to ruin her reputation. No, so therefore we don't believe it. We don't believe it. He doesn't have to pay not knas, not paishas of pagam. Right? So Amar later. So I guess that is like what you're saying, Akiva. So Amar later, what happens if the father says, "I need the money"? I'm sorry, Lidida. What if she says, "Nah, I need the money"? Let him say it. Let's believe him. Give I need the money. So then what? So Gemara says, maybe she doesn't care about her reputation, but her father cares about the reputation. Fine. So Gemara says, okay, but let's say the father doesn't care about the reputation either, and he wants the money. Then what would be the din? Maybe the family is not gonna be so happy with it. Which is a question to himself, like, who cares about the family? Isn't it her life and her father's life? Okay, but then the kasha gets even worse. Not worse, but stronger or more difficult to understand. Let's say the family taka doesn't care. So then what? Right? It can't be that there's somebody somewhere in the world who's not going to be happy. Meaning, there's got to be somebody that's a relative who's not going to be happy. Now, the Gemara doesn't say relative,
and that I care about.
I care about
somebody in Indiana.
That is the big kasha. Now, does that mean a relative? Because the Gemara doesn't say it. The Gemara just says So that means I could be the armchair quarterback sitting in my house, and I could put a hold on this girl getting her money, or does it mean it has to be a relative? So I mean, the art scroll I checked, it says that it's a relative, and they say shita mekubetzes. I looked at the shita mekubetzes. I wasn't exactly sure I understood that, but that's the way the
But
way they
Yaakov,
say
didn't we always say that the father? I don't know if it's exactly that the father has the right to her baishas because he could go ahead and marry after Mukashrin. So I'm not saying so. That's how right he is supposed to do it. So I'm saying, if that's true, who cares what the rest of the family thinks? Meaning he could go ahead and create embarrassment for the family on his own. So maybe they have any makom to tell Bezdin, oh, we don't want this. The father could do it himself, and Bezdin can't do anything about that.
Yeah, that's true. Rabbi, yeah, but it's a very difficult thing to understand. What? Because some family member, we're talking about second, third, fourth, fifth cousin.
I'm saying the father's a din to this. Who says the family member is a din?
I don't know. I don't understand. Rabbi, Aaron, you
and
had
he
a
could
kasha,
create
right?
the
What was your
busha.
thing today?
What?
Didn't you have a horror on this today that you had?
That's what I said to you this morning.
Yeah, but didn't you have episode muscle?
What?
Didn't you have a muscle or something?
I
what
had
did
your muscle debate. Yeah, all your cousins in Lakewood are be upset with you. You send your kids to let your kids go to ball games.
Right.
How they make shidduchim in Lakewood? They have an uncle who goes to baseball games.
They have tinus. They have tinus.
And they have tinus. Yeah.
Rabbi, you missed what he said in the beginning of the show. It works out. The other uncle levels it out.
It says you're supposed to look at the brothers, not
you don't level it out, Aaron.
Oh, okay.
you have to look at the brothers, not the uncles.
No, but I see the Gemara not saying that here. The Gemara didn't go to uncles. They didn't to brothers. The Gemara here went to some relative in overseas. Sounds like it doesn't make a difference how close the relative.
See, Yaakov, it happened. I'll say quickly. This summer, one of my had a travel camp. Her and another young lady. They each had a car, and they used to take the 14-year-olds on trips to different places. They went bike riding someplace. They went to different Zachen. Interesting things. So she told me she's missing one. She said, "Yeah, missing one trip." I said, "Let's go to the Met game. Take your camp to the Met game. Come on." She said, "Oh, that's Gavaldic." So next day she calls me back. Somebody from one of the people in Muncie who comes from an out-of-town community like South Bend said, hey, no, my daughters are not going to baseball games. It's not why we moved to Muncie, to go for daughters to go to baseball games. Yes. So.
Spoken like someone who doesn't have a major league team in their city.
Well.
You can pick on us all you want. Go ahead.
They must have demolition derby there, though.
Avada.
Yeah, but anyways, okay. I don't know. I don't understand the pshat in this case. Okay, so there's some relative that's not going to be happy. Therefore, like Akiva was saying, we don't believe him. We don't believe him. We don't believe him. That's it. We don't believe him.
Unless you say that the Bezdin doesn't have the makom to go ahead. Meaning to allow Bezdin to go ahead and believe the Eidos is the problem. The father do what he wants. Meaning it's just the Bezdin has no makom.
Yep, 100%. That's what it is. Anyways, okay. The rest of the parak deals basically. It's as if we're going to learn nezikin now instead of noshim. So Gemara says, "Aimer ganafti mishalem es a keren." So if he says, "I stole your animal," then he has to pay the keren. He doesn't pay the double, and he doesn't pay 4. He doesn't pay 5. Itmar palgan niska. What about chatzi nezek? So basically, chatzi nezek is that when you have an animal and it gores, with its head, so it gores people or animals. So up until the third time, including the third time, it's called it's called a short tam, and therefore he only has to pay chatzi nezek because it's not really meant to. It's an abnormal thing to do. But once it does it 3 times as a chazaka, then it becomes a shor muad. So, but he pays chatzi nezek. The damager, the owner of the cow, or the ox, really, When it gores, he only has to pay chatzi nezek. Meaning, if he did $1,000 worth of damage, he only has to pay 500. Is that 500 a knas, or is it a half of a payment? So it's going to write. So what's a nafkamina? If the guy admits that his ox went and gored somebody, so he's only paying chatzi nezek. So is that a knas? In which case, meaning, is he really potter? Yet we just made him pay half so that he becomes a little bit more responsible. In which case, it's a knas and he would be potter. Or do we say no? Really, he's supposed to pay the whole thing? But because it's an abnormal thing for his animal to do, we're not going to hold him fully responsible. He's only going to be half responsible. So that's going to be the machlokes here. So itmar palganiska chatzi nezek rapapa mar palganiska mamaina. It's a payment, and therefore, if a guy admits that his animal did it, he's going to be potter. And I'm sorry, chayiv. And Ravuna Bredu Rav Yeshua mar palganiska knasa. It's a knas, and therefore he's going to be potter. What's a pshat? Rapapa mar palganiska mamaina. Half the damage. If it's when you pay half damages, it's mammon. Most shvarim are not considered watched, right? Meaning, and therefore, really, the guy is supposed to be responsible. And because they're not considered watched, so therefore, meaning when we say watch, like when you buy a bird, the assumption is a bird is not going to do any damage, right? But here, so therefore, if it does damage, it's a freak thing. Where Papa is saying no, a shor does damage, and really, you should really pay the whole thing. Tura, the Akati Layaya Tura, and the Torah had Rahmanas on him because it was not how do you say Yayid? It wasn't said Edus, it wasn't warned. The animal was not warned yet because a freak thing. So therefore, the Torah had Rahmanas, and they knocked off 50%. But really, he's chayiv. So therefore, that 50% payment is a payment, and if he admits to it, he's chayiv. Rav Huna says the opposite. Rav Huna Bred Yeshua Omer Palganis Knas. It's a knas. Kasovar stam shvarim becheska shimur kami. A stam shor is considered watched. So therefore, if it did do damage, it is a freak thing. Ubedinu delay l'shalom klal. He shouldn't have to pay at all because he didn't really have to watch it. And the Torah gave him a knas. The Torah said, no, you're going to have to pay half because we want you to watch your shor. So according to that opinion, according to Rav Huna, it's a knas. And therefore, if he comes into Bez and says, my animal gored that guy or whoever, then it's going to be potter. Fine. Simin, hizik, mace, the hizik, klal. Right. So this is a simin for the 4 kashas. The Gemara is going to ask 4 kashas now on these opinions. So Tanan, hanizik v'amazik v'tashlumin. Both the nizik, meaning the nizik is the one that got damaged, and the mazik is the damager. They're both involved in tashlumin. Now, how could that be? The mazik pays. How is a nizik paying? So it's good according to the one that says that chatzi nizik is actually a payment. I know the shach nizik v'tashlumin. That's how you have nizik v'tashlumin. Why? Because what did we say before? That the one that says that it's the half payment is really a monetary payment and not a knas. So he holds really the nizik should be paid the full amount. Why isn't he being paid the full amount? Because the Torah has Rahmanas on the guy, because the shor has not been considered a full damaging shor. So that means who takes that loss? Who swallows that loss? The nizik is swallowing that loss. So then it makes sense that the nizik and the mazik are in tashlumin. But according to the Mandama that says that it's a knas, hashta the lavdi deka shakel, the nizik really shouldn't be getting anything, right? The one that says it's knas really says the nizik shouldn't get anything because the animal's not meant to do damage. So betashlumin nisei, so we're going to call that he's really not supposed to get anything. He's getting half. We're going to call it that he's actually paying for some of the damage. He wasn't even entitled to half. So you see, it must be that palgan niska's mammon. When answers like no, we're referring to the nevela, which is the dead animal, as it sits, as the dead animal rots, it becomes worth less and less. Who has to swallow that? Meaning, let's say today, 2:00 in the afternoon, the animal gored the ox gored the other animal and it died. Right? So, and by the time they go to Bezdin's closed for the day. They go to Bezdin tomorrow. And really, the dead carcass was worth $100 today. By the time they get to Bezdin starts selling it, it's only worth $90. Who swallows that 10? So the nezek swallows that 10. So that's what it means, that the nezek is paying for some of the damage, right? He suffers because of some of the damage. So Gemara says pchas nevela. That's what you're talking about. That the nevela is worth less. So, we learned that already. Tashlum and nezek, payments of nezek, malamid, shabai. That tashlum and nezek, right? When the Gemara says that it is tashlum, that he's responsible for the tashlumin of the damage, malamid shabai lemitaflim benevela. That the owners have to deal with the nevela. Meaning, even though the owners didn't kill their animal, they were damaged, but they're the ones that have to take care of it, and they have to sell it. So, meaning, it's their loss is coming to them. So we already learned that. So what's our Gemara saying? So when it's chada b'tam v'chada muad, one is talking about a tam, and one is talking about a muad. What does that mean? V'tzricham, we need both. Diyash min tam. Maybe by tam, the reason why the guy that got damaged is responsible for the loss of the carcass, because it's a tam and it has not yet been what do you call it? Muad. Muad means it hasn't already
Gored?
adopted, not gored. I don't know if that is that where it comes from, gored, or it comes from word aid, that it hasn't yet become a
Warned?
muad. That's yeah. Av a muad, the yayid, but a muad that's a yayid, aimaloi, maybe the nezek shouldn't have to be responsible. Meaning, if it's chatzi nezek and it's a freak thing, it's okay. So the nezek, that was his bad luck. But the muad, if it was a muad, then that should be totally the responsibility of the owner of the muad, of the mazik. Yes, I mean a muad mishum dekamashal and kulib. Maybe muad, he's paying for the full damage of the animal. He doesn't have to pay for the decay of the carcass. Aval tam aim maloi, but tam, where he's not paying for the full damage, maybe he should be responsible for the decay. So tzricha, that's why you need both Gemaras to teach us that in both cases the nezek is responsible for the decay. Right? Fine. Tashima.
Why are we saying that this whole mission is Rabbi Shmuel? The Machlokes is Rabbi Kiva Rabbi Shmuel, and I'm ACLI, whether the nevela belongs to the nezek or the mazik. We don't pass him like Rabbi Shmuel, but here we want to say the whole thing's Rabbi Shmuel.
I don't understand what Rabbi Shmuel. What?
This whole Machlokes here is only negeya if the nevela itself belongs to the nezek.
Right.
That's Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Kiva holds it belongs to the mazik.
I mean, you're talking about stamazah. You mean the Gemara and Bava Kama? I didn't stop what you were saying. Yeah.
Sorry.
You mean, so why is it handling that way?
Yeah. Because we're fitting it in shaloi kahalacha.
I guess. I don't know. You're saying that maybe, I don't know. I hear. That's a good question. Yeah. I was just thinking stamazai with all how come the nezek loses out? He was damaged, right? It's a part of the guy. Why is the nezek losing out? You damaged my show. You killed my show. I only get half. Right? I'm saying that I know we learned Mussar already tonight, but the Mussar of it is that there's fate. That's what it is. There's fate. It's that Hashem obviously wanted that to go down that way, and that's not. I'm saying that's the way it is. You can't start saying, well, how come I'm losing out? That if that's the din, that's the din. You have to put it into fate, which we have a hard time with. But okay, Toshima. Next kasha. Ma bein tam lemud. So the Gemara says there's a brisa that says, what's the difference between a tam and a muad? Actually, it's a Mishna. Ma bein tam lemud. Shatam mishalim chatzi nezek megufay. The tam has to pay chatzi nezek megufay. Meaning, if you have a tam that's worth $100 and it gores a shor that's worth $1,000, so really the guy has to pay $500 theoretically, but that's not the way it goes. He pays. It goes by how much the ox that gored is worth, right? Meaning, what do we say? It's 100, so he only has to pay 50, right? Which is a whole different sugya how what the pshat and that is, but that's what it is, right? So the guy's really losing out. He had a cow worth $1,000, and all he's getting paid is $50, right? But that's what it is. Muad mishalim nezek shalim min aliyah. But a muad, if it gored 3 times, then it pays from the aliyah. For loikatani shatam ena misham. Now that's what it says. The differences between tam and muad. But according to the way we're understanding now, there's another difference between tam and muad, because if it's a knas, then if a guy comes and admits, then he's potter, right? We don't learn that a tam pays by himself. And a muad does pay because he's making full payments. So it must be it's not a knas. And that's why it's not put under the list of differences between a tam and a muad. Again, when the Mishnah there lists the difference between tam and muad, it should be a difference should be if the guy is maida, that is animal gored, meaning if you hold that it's a knas, because a knas he would be potter, but by a muad he would be chayev, so it should be added. So when it says tana v'shayir, right, we had this rule a few times. The tana, if he leaves out something else, then he can leave out other things too, which is also another difficult thing to understand. Why are you leaving? The Mishnah is saying a list of differences, and it leaves out this one. And the reason why it's allowed to leave out this one is because it left out another one. So once it left out another one, it can leave this one out too, right? So that's the Gemara says. Ton of a shire, it just learned one, but it left over some things. That means you need to find which other thing it left over. My shire, the high shire. What did it leave over that it could leave over this one? Shire chatzi koifer. He left out chatzi koifer, meaning, like, remember we said on the top of the Amid, we said that if somebody kills somebody, so he's potter, he's not chayav misa because he didn't kill, it was his animal that killed, but he has to pay koifer, right? But what happens if his short tam kills somebody? So really has to pay chatzi nezek. Does he pay chatzi koifer? Right? So we say no. At least the Gemara is saying here that you do not pay chatzi koifer, but by a muad, you would pay koifer. So that's the difference between tam and muad, whether there's koifer or not. So that the Mishnah left out. So since it left that out, it could also leave out the difference is if the guy comes and admits. So imashum chatzi koifer lav shiuru. The Gemara says if chatzi koifer is the thing that it left out, that's not considered leaving it out. On Talmud Beis, Hamani Rabbi Yossi Aglili, because the Tanas of Yossi Aglili, the Amar Tam Mishalim chatzi koifer, because he says that a tam does pay chatzi koifer. So we're going with the sheet of Yossi Aglili, who says the tam does pay chatzi koifer. So therefore, there's nothing left over, right? Yeah.
So it's
then
a raya.
What?
It's a raya.
Is it a raya? What do you mean? Is it a raya?
We brought it as a proof that it's not knas, that it's mammon. That way out was ton of a shire.
Right, but now we don't have ton of a shire.
So
Right,
now it proves that it's mammon.
Right, so that's the question. Are we left with a ton of a shire or not? That's the toises. That's the whole long toises here, which means I just don't remember what toises said. That otherwise I would say what toises says.
Also, Rabbi Yehuda holds Tzad Thomas to Mekayim members. Why can't we say that here? The Tanas Rabbi Yehuda and Maida Beknas with a muad is also pater and chatzi.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear. I don't know. Yeah, okay. Fine. Vaitis a toshima. Him is shairi as pliny. If a guy comes in and he says this is the third kasha, right? He says my shar killed Pliny. Oh, sharish of Pliny, or he killed. This is our Mishnah, or the shar of Pliny. I raise him mishalim al piyatzma. He has to pay by himself. My love, the tam, is in the Mishnah talking about a tam, and it says that he has to pay the damages. So we say loy b'muad. The Mishnah is talking about a muad. So then what says avotam mai? But according to you, if it was a tam, what would be the din? Ein mishalim al piyatzma. He doesn't pay. Now the Tani Seifa Avdei Shel Pliny Ein mishalim al piyatzma. When you say in the Seifa that if a shor killed an eved, he doesn't pay the 30 because that's a knas. Niflik v'lisi b'dido. Why don't we say? Why don't we separate the din over there and say b'med dvarim alurim b'muad? That's only where it's by muad. Aval tam ein mishalim al piyatzma. Right, but tam doesn't have to pay on his own. Meaning, why do you have to go on to Eved? Just differentiate between Tam and Muad. When it says Kula b'Muad Kamairi, the whole Mishnah is talking about Muad, right? It's not talking about Tam and Muad. It's all talking about Muad. So Muad by an Eved is not going to have to pay. Muad by everybody else will have to pay. Fine.
Doesn't that uproot the whole purpose of the Mishnah? Mishnah is talking about knas.
Right.
The
So
second half of the Mishnah is not talking about knas.
It chose to use Eved as knas.
Why would the Mishnah talk about Bechlal about something that has no shaykhis to knas?
What do you mean?
A muad. The whole thing with shayr is muad.
Yeah, but it's not. It's about knas or not.
There is no knas by muad. An avid is kaifer.
What do you mean?
The payment for an avid is kaifer, no, not knas. When we say in Makkah, this
no, it's a
Mishnah is
knas.
kufr,
It's a knas.
because this mandamar holds kufr knasu, not kufr kapar.
Right.
That's Makkah's. But really, it's kaifer. It's not really knas at all. We happen to give it the same halacha as knas, same din as knas, but it's not knas.
Okay, I don't know. I'm not sure. I see. We're gonna
Rashi goes
we gotta
to
get
Shtickle Torah.
Nezekin, man.
Rashi goes to Shtickle Torah.
I need another drink, so yalla.
I'm just saying Rashi explains exactly why it doesn't matter which way you learn the Mishnah, whether one way or another. Either way is fine. That's the Gemara's point. So it's not a proof.
Okay, I hear that. What is that?
This is hop on the meat
Oh.
itself.
All right. Thank you. No, go right. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. I'm not holding a Nezekin in my head. I don't know where. I don't know if I'm holding a Nashim. I'm certainly not holding a Nezekin. Yeah. Okay, so Toshima. Fourth raya. Vakasha. Zeh klal. Kol ha-mishalim yeser al masha hizik. Anybody who pays more than he damaged, ain't a mishalim al piyatz, it doesn't pay. That's the last line in the Mishnah, right? If you pay more than you damaged, then you don't pay that on your own because that's clearly a knas. Ha-pachas mi-masha hizik, but it's mashma, that's only if you paid more. If you pay less, mishalim al piyatzma, you do pay al miyatzma. When do you pay less? That's chatzi nezek. So must be chatzi nezek. Must be the chatzi nezek is mammon, not knas. So where it says, Lord, don't say that it means less. Don't be medayik if it's less than masha hizik. Elaima hakama shehizik mishalim al piyatzma. Right? Say, and if he doesn't pay the amount that he damaged, whichever way it goes, he doesn't pay on his own because that means it's a knas. Meaning, if it's not the exact amount that he damaged, then it's a knas. Avapachas mai, right? But what if it was less? Then what's the din? Ein mishalim al piyatzma. He doesn't pay by himself. Listni zeakla. Why don't you just word the Mishnah this way? This is the rule. Kol she'ein mishalim kama shehizik, ein mishalim al piyatzma. If you don't pay what you damaged, then you don't pay if you admit it. The mashma pachas and mashma yeser. It's mashma less than more. Why can you just say it very clear like that? Gemara says tiyufta. So that's a kasha, and it slugs up that chatzi nezek is a knas. V'hilchasa, and guess what? What's the halacha? Another very interesting thing. Just slugged it up, and there's a halacha palganiska is knas, but it's a knas. I mean, we just slugged it up, but we're saying, but the halacha is like the one we just slugged up. So Gemara asked, tiyufta v'hilchasa? You just said it's a tiyufta, which, by the way, tiyufta is not. It's not like it says the word kasha, right? We know that when it says the word kasha, it means that there's a kasha, but it doesn't get rid of that opinion. Tiyufta means the opinion is gone. So the Gemara is saying tiyufta v'hilchasa. You're saying it's a kasha on it, and that's a halacha. Gemara says, yeah, in time of my itaisiv. Because what was your question? Mishum deloy katani kama shehizik. Because you didn't use a lashon of how much it damages. Loy psikolay. That's not for sure. Why? Kiven the ika chatzin ezek troirus. Right. This is heavy bava kama. Let's hope Gershon doesn't have any hidden opinions and shitas on this one. Since it's
Keep the mute button on.
Yes, a kiven the ika chatzi nezek tzrayris, right? So since there's the pebbles of chatzi nezek, which is basically when an animal's walking and it kicks up pebbles and it goes and it damages, so it pays half. You pay half the damage because that's a freak thing, right? The hilchos of gemirula, that's halach l'maishem b'sinai, the mamainahu, that's considered mammon even though it's a chatzi nezek, right? So you see that there is a possibility of something that you're only paying half the damage and it's considered damage, not knas. Like Katani, that's why the Mishnah didn't want to say this rule that any time you don't pay the exact amount, right? So therefore it was not a kasha, right? It's again.
So
The
then why
Gemara
did
says
the Gemara say tiyufta?
that's it. Why did the Gemara say tiyufta? I have no idea.
This is a great upshlag.
Right. Meaning the Gemara said tiyufta. Why didn't it use the lashon of if you don't pay the exact amount of the damage, then it's a knas. And the Gemara says tiyufta. Oh, that was taka. We should have said that. Then the Gemara says no, we couldn't, but we still paskin that way, even though we shlugged it up. So what do you mean? So the Gemara says, how do you slug it? How do you paskin like that you slug it up? So you really didn't slug it up because there is a case where you pay half damages and it's mammon and it's not knas. What is that? Tzrayris. Okay, so then it's not an absolute rule. So then why? Then the Mishnah couldn't say it that way. So it's not a tiyufta anymore, right? I don't know.
You could say levar mitzrayers.
You could have said that in the Mishnah, yeah. You would have been happy with that. That would have set us off another few blot of nezek, right?
No, but I'm saying it's not a tiyufta. It's a little bit better because there's tzrayers, but there's other ways to say it.
Okay, that's what you think it means.
Kasha the Gemara was that you could say it another way. Why does it say it this way?
Right.
Gemara picked a certain way to say it. Okay, so say it a different way.
I hear. Okay, maybe that's meaning what Gershon is saying is that bottom line is the Mishnah could have chosen a better way of saying it, even though there is a makam to understand why the Mishnah didn't choose that way. Okay, I hear that. So Gemara says, now that we say that chatzi nezek is a knas. Hi kalbo da'achal imra. If you have a dog, then you get a shtickle into a chad gadya here. You have a dog. I wonder if this is maybe the part of chad gadya. Anybody think about that? That saw the daf already today. It has to be somewhere. Some big genius figure out exactly how to fit this in, right? But if the dog ate a sheep, there's no sheep in chad. Is a sheep in chad gadya? Is there a sheep? No sheep?
No.
That's when I'm counting sheep already. I'm already counting sheep when it's going to get to that point.
Depends if you call it gedi. It starts with a gedi.
Yeah.
But a gedi could be
that's true. No, right. So that's okay. Gedi is close enough. Same family. Right, okay. So hi kalba the ochel imri. If you have a dog that ate a sheep, the shunra the ochel tarnagali, and a cat that ate a chicken, tarnagali ravari, a large chicken, mishunahu, that's a strange thing. And you're not allowed to collect it in Bavel. What does it mean in Bavel? Because in Bavel, they were not allowed to collect for knas because there was no bezdin in Bavel. That was only in Eretz Yisrael. So this would be, in order to take a damage, a guy wouldn't be responsible because it's a freak thing for a dog to eat a sheep, and it's a freak thing for a cat to eat a large chicken. So therefore, it's a meshuna, and the only way there would be payment would be a knas, and a knas they can't do in Bavel. Aval zutri, but small sheep, and a small chicken, that would be orchehu umagbinon. Then that's a payment. That's not a knas, and now they can collect them above it. But okay, so that's the din. Then the Gemara says a few what's it called? Where exclusions. V'itafas law, v'itafas. But if the guy grabs the money from the owner of the dog or the owner of the cat, like mafkinum, we don't take the money back. Meaning, if he grabs money, then it's fine. But Taisus says, interesting Taisus to the right, the last Taisus in the parak says that Rabbeinu Tam says that's only if he grabbed the actual animal that did the damage. If he grabs another, he just goes into his farm and he takes a different dog or he takes a different cat, that he's not allowed to do. Right? Again, we're saying that the guy's potter in Bogo. So the neighbor says, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna go take a dog from him or take a chicken from him. You can't do it. It has to be the actual dog and the actual cat, not chicken, but the actual cat. That's the way Rabbeinu Tam says it. And if the guy says, let's travel to Eretz Yisrael so we can get a bezdin in a paskin, So Mekvinale, we make a set time, and he has to do it. The Eloi, and if not, and if the damager doesn't go, Mishamsinale, we put him into Chayrim. And then the Gemara says, and even in the interim, while they're waiting for this to go to Eretz Yisrael, we still we put him in Chayrim. Remove the things that damage from your house. This is a big corona sugya. How do you know that a person is not allowed to have a bad dog in the house? We'll get back to that in a minute. And don't put a ladder that's bad in your house that people shouldn't get damaged. Don't place blood in your bias. Now, the whole issue, whether Yidden can have dogs, right? We had this, I think we had it once before, comes from this, right? Because how do you read it? Which is a bad dog, mashma, that a not bad dog you're allowed to have. Or do you translate as minayin shalai yigadol adam kelev, kama, which is ra? Every kelev is ra in your house.
What does this have to do with Corona, COVID?
Because Corona, lots of people were getting dogs, and neighbors were getting upset, and it was there was a whole that's why it do Corona. People were getting dogs. Either way, but that's the sugya of whether you're allowed to have a dog is based on this Gemara where you put the comma. Okay, Hadron Alach Elu Nairis, L'chaim everybody, and we'll stop over here.
L'chaim.
Yaakov.
Shkoyach.
Yeah.
Yaakov.
Yeah.
I called you today. I wanted to tell you. I saw it in June. I told all the other Magidei. I called all the Daf Yomi, 3 of them today. There's an article in the Jerusalem Post today about there was a big fist fight in a restaurant in Eilat. Either was on Shabbos or Motzi Shabbos. I couldn't tell from the article. I went through the whole article because I was hoping, like everybody else, that there was a video, but there was no video. Just the story of the fight. So the maitre d' of the restaurant's name is Robert. And he was telling how he broke up the fight, how we protected the waitress from the guys and whatever. Then he said he told the 2 main guys fighting that it's not a beach and it's not a football game, it's a restaurant, and there's pregnant ladies there. And if you hit one of the pregnant ladies and you kill the baby, you'll be in trouble. She said the daf. So the made a D of the restaurant in Eilat is saying over Daf Yomi.
Serious?
It's the Daf from 3 days ago, no?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they were saying that it had to do with the Daf.
No, nobody's, no.
Oh, okay. I hear.
No, they didn't say that. No.
Where Byron is saying is he didn't say he's chayav misa. He just said you're going to be in trouble.
If you forgot to make a bracha on toveling something, you can still use it?
Yes. Brachas are never ma'akiv.
So what's the point then?
What's the point?
I'm saying b'di'evet, I'm saying it's good. We're not really supposed to do it, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what's the point? But I'm saying I hear it with Akiv. It's not Akiv, but I'm saying, okay, whatever. Okay.
When are you taking the yarmulke off, Naftali?
I'm thinking about it. It hides my bald spot, so that's really why I'm keeping it on for now.
Me too.
I'm telling you, does not hide your bald spot.
Shut it. Okay.
All right, I got to run to my room.
Bye.
You guys can continue fighting.
All right, bye.
All right, bye. Good day.
Good night.